All right, so this conversation, roundtable number 2. Welcome everybody to the dehumanization of sales. Is replacing humans with technology a bad move? We've got our guest today. I'm going to start out with everybody introducing themselves, starting from the left with David Krieger.
Hi, I'm David Krieger. I'm president of Sales Roads. We're an
Hey everyone, my name is Eric Nowakowski. I am the owner of Growth Engine X. We are an outbound cold email company, and then I run growth at clay.com.
Hey guys, my name is Andrew Bose. I founded a sales agency called Darwinian Ventures. We get B2B SaaS companies to their first million in ARR. We spun out Potion, which is an AI video generating company, which allows you to personalize videos to thousands of people without having to reshoot the video.
My name is Daniel Wax. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Self Disrupt. We're a modern day demand generation SaaS platform that creates you at scale. We take your voice, your brand, your messaging, and make it personal, and then automate your outreach to just your target audience with multi-channel campaigns while collecting their data.
Hi, my name is Guy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Roundtable. We're a revenue AI platform. We focus on leveraging both predictive and generative AI to help you detect buying intent, sales ready ops, and warm inflows.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. I'm going to make this statement. I'm going to ask one of these questions. I'm going to go around the horn and let everyone share their response. Each person share their response, and then build off of those responses to try to make a interesting conversation that ideally will leave folks with a couple takeaways and things that they can put into action as they seek to navigate these waters. So sales agencies must keep up with advances in technology in order to survive in today's increasingly competitive and changing market. But question number 1, are sales agencies relying too heavily on technology at the expense of human interaction and empathy? And 2, because I think we can handle both at the same time, does tech replacing humans in sales threaten human connection and job security? Now let's start from my right with Guy.
Yes, so certainly the technologies, the basic automation technology that have a one-size-fits-all approach, have an element of alienation, right, for people using them. And in fact, you can recognize those automated templates very quickly. What AI brings to the table is something different. It's a notion of personalization at scale. We call it digital empathy. And it's the ability to leverage data, what you've learned about the client, the potential problems that they have by just reading their site, looking out, researching them at scale, and then playing that back in your email intro to grab their attention. That, I think, is a game changer that we need to pay attention to.
So is it a threat to job security for those reps?
I think it's with AI can be obviously perceived as a threat. In my view, it's an opportunity if you embrace it as part of your workflows. For example, if you treat it as a copilot and outsource some of the lower value tasks in your workflow, focus on the higher value, higher impact action, then that actually becomes an opportunity for your agent to differentiate.
And then last, just to make sure it hits home, do you feel like agencies use too much technology already, or that they're slow to adopt some of the new technologies coming up?
I mean, in my experience, we sell to agencies, we sell to B2B and business services. We see a pretty rich stack being used in sales agencies. I don't think they're using too much technology. I think transformation, and I think they have to, as part of their business model, they need to deliver efficiency, they need to deliver throughput. It's a core business for them. Investment technology makes a lot of sense. I think the inflection point we've reached is that technology stack is being rewritten by AI as we speak. And really what's happening is an effort with consultants called sales transformation. Is how do you evolve your stack into a more modern stack and take advantage of these breakthroughs.
Awesome. So then,
Yeah, and I'm gonna mimic Guy here a little bit. in just a second, but my belief is a little different on this topic, where I think as a whole, we're not over reliant on technology today in the agency or in the sales world. What I do believe is that the majority of agencies, the majority of sales leaders are getting shiny object syndrome with all of the different tools that are out there now for every piece of AI. And so there are two things that need to be put in place for every single company using all of these tools to use it effectively. I believe companies are getting it without having a process in place manually that they can then automate that process. What I mean by this is you need two things, and a third one I'll go over, to make sure that you're leveraging AI tools and automation correctly. You need, like I said, you need personalization at scale. The second thing is you need relevance at scale, which is again where his intent data comes into play. So you need personalization and relevance. What does this mean? Well, in marketing, you have know, like, and trust. In sales, you need to make sure that there's a decision-making power, that there's fit, and the time is right at that point in time. If you aren't already manual, people say, this person is interested in what I'm offering, and I have a message that works manually, you should never go ahead and use AI to do that, unless it's for something that's building some AI copywriting for you that you're not good at. Like Eric over here, he'll talk about that. So I don't believe that there is an over-reliance. I believe there is shiny object syndrome without enough process behind the AI to start today. So where that relates to are we becoming reliant? Is it something that's going to get the out of the job and your job security? I think the jobs that are in sales today are going to be a lot different than the jobs that we see in sales in 3 years. What I mean by that is instead of you're going to have a typical person that goes through cadences right now, send email, LinkedIn message, make call. I think that's going to shift, and you're going to see that the best of the best sales organizations instead are amazing implementers and amazing sales trainers, where the aspect of the sale that cannot ever be changed is questioning, having empathy, identifying pain, and creating creative, real solutions, leveraging your current offerings. That's something that AI isn't going to replace in the near future, and the best salespeople are going to be the ones who know how to do that.
All right, Andrew.
Yeah, so I would actually push back on the question a little bit. At the end of the day, sales is the most transparent discipline in the world. Is it working or is it not?
You can't push back on the question.
No.
Give your opinion.
The question is there too much? Like, are people over reliant?
Yeah.
I mean, look, people buy from people. The humans are still making the decisions at the end of the day, especially for higher dollar. Like, the higher the dollar amount, the more human decision is. AI can spit out anything, but you see someone that you trust with instincts who's going to validate whether it's right or not and put it into play. So I think that, okay, I was thinking, like, people forget about all these stuff, all this stuff. This is kind of a silly comparison. Did you guys ever see the movie The Last Samurai?
Yes.
It's kind of like Tom Cruise becomes a samurai, all this stuff, right? And at the end of the movie, they have the best samurais in the world charging, and they bought like one Gatling gun, and it just like kills all. It's very sad. Obviously terrible. So guns change the pace of warfare. They're still soldiers out there. They're just trained differently. They're using different tools, and like you got to adapt to that. So I don't like to think of this as like right or wrong. Is it good or bad? Like, are people using too much, too little? It's happening, and you got to adapt to the new playing field and use these tools. But at the end of the day, our team is going to make a decision based on what they're putting in front of them. And if they are, then cool, go for it. And if they're not, go back to the drawing board and do it all over again. But I think sales is so beautifully transparent that, like, I don't know. I don't think about whether it's too much or too little. I think if something's working, it works, and if it's not, it's over.
All I heard is samurais getting shot with Gatling guns.
Right?
That is not job security. Those guys are not safe.
But there's soldiers. There's more soldiers than ever. Right? They're just using different guns.
If you don't get the new guns, you will die.
We'll end up like Tom Cruise.
Yeah. The real Tom Cruise or the? All right, Eric.
And so definitely at my position at Clay, I can 100% leveraging sales technology. Actually, I would even ask, maybe not people in this room because people are highly committed in this room, but in the whole sales agency world, how many of them even know how to hook up an API and integrate something, well, or how to use a webhook? They just implement things as much as they can. And so when it comes to dehumanizing sales, though, I think a lot of times we see all of the new technology coming out and we're like, wow, this technological evolution is crazy. The dehumanization of sales happened when email verification got so cheap that you could just guess emails, and LinkedIn became so prolific that the data was actually good. Then that's when the dehumanization actually happened, where now I can just guess, like Gil at Metadata has the easiest email in the world to guess. I think we could all think of what it is right now. And now I can just put that on a sequencer and just, keep ripping off emails. That was the dehumanization of sales. Now what we're able to do with all of the web scraping, and AI, and all of these things, is really, who cares if it gets dehumanized? Because if we can use outbound tactics to target people as high accuracy as high intent ads, then who cares where the message came from? If you're sending something that is relevant to what's going on in their business, it actually solves a problem that you detected, like, hey, I think you got a problem going on. I don't care where that email came from, and prospects don't care about where that email came from because it's relevant and it's at the right time.
David.
Yeah, so I do think that agencies and companies have become way over reliant on tech, and something we've worked really hard is to keep our tech stack really lean. And I think with AI, we're going to see that explode. There's going to be more incentives for people to just say, okay, got this problem, I'm going to throw AI, I'm going to throw this at it, and that is going to make the problem, I think, exponentially worse. And so I think there's two competing things here. I think all of our agencies, companies have to move really fast with AI, but they have to also move with product with AI. So they have to really think about what are their problems, what are the things they're going to attack, and then figure out how they're going to implement that throughout the organization. Are they going to have a test lab? That's one of the things I'm thinking about at Sales Road. Like, do we test a few things before we throw it at everybody? Because what we found is you can kill productivity with technology if you're just throwing it at the problem. If you do it right and you really think about what's really necessary and what's really going to solve the different problems that we have and is going to make the experience better both for the sales reps as well as the prospects that people are engaged with, that's where the message is.
So I hear basically a lot of positives coming off of this technology piece, but the big thing, a couple words that I heard a lot of was process. And I heard a lot of not throwing technology at the problem. And then I also heard about making sure that your messages are relevant. These are three things that I typically see are hard to find in a sales organization. So let's start with process. How do you start creating real sales processes? Everybody talks about it. Not a lot of people really have it. So what's going on there? In order for us to embrace the technology, we have to have a clear process to really be able to get the most out of it. So what do we do about process from the standpoint of making sure that people are being on the call and identifying the problem and pushing forward with a relevant answer, even when their manager is like, well, keep hunting that person down, even though you don't have a relevant problem to solve?
I mean, it's hard. Just to build on what you said. So all we've been discussing here this morning is clever ways, smart ways to grab it. The attention economy. It is almost certain that AI will do a very, very good job in the near future at grabbing people's attention because it's relevant, it will be trusted, it will be personalized in a way that it won't make any sense to do it manually because AI will do it well, better, much faster. So grabbing attention is going to be fully limited. To your point about process, and we've been talking about going back to a full cycle. It's like going back in time when sellers had to actually sell. They actually had to show business acumen, almost like a strategic consultant. So they had to follow a process like or solution selling, like connector selling, things that you find actually still today in business services. And you had to creatively think about to solve it. I mean, if you're in sales, it's because you're selling a complex solution. Otherwise, someone will buy it on your website. And so you need to come up with a creative solution. So I think by quote outsourcing, grabbing attention to your co-pilot that you can actually trust, I think you'll be the people who will rise to the challenge of thinking strategically and follow a good sales process to become a trusted advisor to the client. I think that's where we're heading.
Mm.
So what does that mean for sales agencies? In my view, it will be all about training, upgrading skill set, especially around soft skills, the ability to creatively discover some of the pain point that you can address with a solution and coming up with a creative solution.
Anybody have a response to that? Any other?
Okay, so I definitely, one thought that keeps coming to mind here is that you guys have worked with sales guys. The best sales folks that are salespeople, the best salespeople I've ever worked with are phenomenally good at this sort of emotional jujitsu where it's like trust and confidence and like building a rapport and like making things happen, going through objections, audience management, right? So like, who are you speaking to? What are their concerns? How to position this in the right way, frame it in the right way. Best in the world are phenomenal at that. Try to get them to write a paragraph or put together a spreadsheet. Like it's a joke. Like they'll procrastinate. Oh, this came up. Like blah blah blah. I was sick. It'll take forever, man. And this has been the case in every sales organization I've ever been in. And I've come to this conclusion that it's kind of a weird way of framing it, but it's almost like there's like different species of people out there, and some of them are really good at that whole emotional personal problem solving, interpersonal problem solving, making things happen amongst people that maybe aren't necessarily wanting it to happen. That's a really profound skill set. They're brutal at all the other things that go into it. And I think AI and all the tools really just are the stuff that they're terrible at anyways, suck at, procrastinate forever. It's like wonderful that these tools exist. You know, it allows folks to do what they're actually really good at and what they're trained at and play to their strengths. There's another expression like everyone's trying to like measure what type of fish they are, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you'll always think that it's like something like that. That is how I feel in sales, and we're trying to push salespeople into doing things that people are not good at, and AI is a wonderful way to get around that. And I'm all for it.
So from Guy's side, we're talking about being able to develop some new skill sets that would allow you to operate at another level as a salesperson. And then Andrew, what you're introducing is this option of, I feel like what John was talking about earlier, like building this ecosystem around them that allows them to focus on this thing, not necessarily, and using maybe tools to fill in the gaps.
They've been cyborgs for a long time. The Iron Man suit is, I use that analogy all the time, especially in prospecting because it's really high volume. Humans can't do that. So, you know, again, you can't go back to trying to be a good swordsman, back to the samurai analogy. The world has these tools now. You got to use them and play to your strengths. Otherwise, I think you're going to be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, and actually, do something out here. Can I put it on the camera?
Yeah.
Put it up there. Yeah. So what we have up is kind of the sales process pre-AI and pre-technology. So this is what everyone talks about. You guys all probably know the top triangle and the bottom triangle from marketing. You used to go out to a large set of models, build know, like, and trust. And once you got that, they were a marketing qualified lead. From there, if you identified the same people with decision-making power, that they had the problem now, and they were the right fit, the right audience that you know you have success with, that's an SQL, that's a sales qualified lead, workout pricing. At the bottom, that's going to stay the exact same. This is evangelist, this is post-sale. We're not going to go over this right now. The difference with AI and technology is you can redesign the framework here with what we have. We normally used to go out to a large set of people and say, let's see which ones like us first, and then let's identify ICP. Instead, with tools like metadata, with tools like Clay, with tools like Self-Disrupt, you're able to go out and identify decision-making power, timing, and fit before you even get into talking to them. And that's second thing you're able to do, and going back to personalization of scale and setting up your process and redesigning it, is first you need to be able to identify your potential buyers. AI allows us to do that better. Put that first in your process now. Don't put your marketing first. Going back to full cycle sales. The second thing is after you've got your list in there, well, yeah, you can reach right away, or you can something like Clay or Reggie or something there that's able to scan all of those people and not only make it relevant at scale to them, but personalize your messaging to them to allow you to build know, like, and trust second. So I feel like with sales structure, sales process today, I think the biggest change is going to be the order that we do that in. And able to set the process for it.
I like the way you set that up, and I think that process
Good. I just want to talk about one of the pitfalls too. I think for sales leaders, for agencies, about thinking about process and thinking about the potential of AI. And I think everybody, it's human nature, sales organizations, humanity, we want an easy button. We would love to press a button. The process works, and all of a sudden the meetings just keep on turning out, right? But at the end of the day, it's never going to be that easy. And at the end of the day, it's not going to be my personal opinion. We're in the fog of AI, so maybe we'll have very soon. It's not going to be all powered by AI. So I think another pitfall, sales leaders, as this is the buzzword, and what are the tools that I need, what do I need, what's the right tech stack to get the rest. And you talked about training, that's really important. But as we think about figuring out what the right tools are, we have to remember what are the important aspects of the sales cycle that the reps can uniquely do. They can do, I like the term digital empathy or whatever, but reps can, this plan, they can really build relationships in a way AI never can. And that's, and we've got to make sure that we're leaning into those characteristics of the human aspect. As we're rushing to figure out the right sales tool, let's not leave the time, because otherwise there is no silver bullet. So we've all tried it. We've all been excited about it. You can't push it. You've got the whole process, and the process includes the human.
I got a question for you to follow up on that one, Dave. Does that rep role start looking more like customer success on a regular basis, or are we still and always be closing?
Well, I think that there always should be an aspect of customer success in all aspects of sales, starting with that. You start with that mindset. Otherwise, I don't think you're selling in the right way. So I think that it should be there and always will be there. And so I think, though, the skills that we are training for are around customer success. It's around understanding the buyers, understanding their personas, understanding their pain points, and making sure that they have those skills and that they are taking them to close. But I think the heart of your question is, are they not prospecting anymore? And I really do think that you still need reps who know how to prospect, who know how to reach out, pick up the phone, take the inbound call, even if it's because of some of these things, or customize that last. I think Chuck Barrows, you talked about the last mile, of that email, and I think that's really important to be able to have the reps have that skill to be able to do this. We need to be human beings that are going to come off in the right way to that prospect, and they need to still be hungry.
Yeah, last mile, that's a perfect point. Right? Yeah, it's still going to be a handshake between people. You're going to trust the other person. But getting there, there's going to be some ways to push it. But that last, it's a perfect analogy. That last mile is especially for higher dollar decisions. It's always going to be done by a person.
I want to wrap up the process piece with a question for Eric. How often do you find in a conversation with a buyer for software that you ask them what the sales process is? How often are they able to clearly articulate that? Out of 10, say out of 10 times.
Out of 10 times, I'm probably going to even say one, and maybe not even that. And, because I see it all the time where I say, especially when it starts with the top of the funnel. When I have these sales conversations with people I play, I say, okay, what's the prospecting process? How does it all start? And they say, okay, it's super sophisticated. I go on Sales Navigator, and I create people, and I find their email. I'm like, whoa. Great. And so then when we start having, we start digging deeper into things, and say, okay, let's just say you had the manual time to go in and look at a company or look at a person. What are you searching for to say, okay, this person has a problem? You're like, oh, I love searching for, did they just launch a new product? Or did they recently raise money? Or are they hiring for a certain position? Or what's going on here? Don't worry about that, I got it. And then no, that can be automated. Let's put this into the system. And I think that goes into the process part too, is it starts with this problem sniffing exercise where you're like, okay, let's work backwards into the problem. When do people have a sincere need for my product, whether it's a trigger in the company or it's just a right fit for them? So trigger is they recently raised money, or there's some event like they're hiring for somebody, or somebody recently got hired, and those kinds of things. And then right fit is, is this a company in the manufacturing space that sells a particular kind of manufacturing? And I need to know all 8,000 companies in the world that only do this thing because we have that right fit. reach out to. And that's where AI and all these other things can come into when you do the problem sniffing first. And then once you get through the problem sniffing, then you can, go through more of a sales process, but, not often. But, I feel like people don't have it defined because we kind of sit here and we laugh and we say, oh, they don't have the sales process defined. But, like John said in the beginning of the day, what sales process is linear anyway? Like, how would you precisely know? And so I think it's more about knowing exactly who your customer is and knowing when to say no and say, hey, I shouldn't always be closing. And this is a customer success thing that should happen as well. Like at Clay, one person was on a call with me and they were literally describing Ample Market. I was like, you should go buy that. Don't buy Clay. Like, buy Ample Market. And they're like, are you sure? I'm like, go. Like, that's totally fine. And yeah, it's totally fine. And so when it comes to the process and embracing all this technology, it starts with problem sniffing and then actually reaching out to people. And then that last month, like we've all been talking about, is it the right fit to get them on the line?
I think consultative billing is the norm. Everyone's self-educated. It's pretty transparent. There's no, there's a lot of like proprietary stuff you can tell them that'll blow their mind. It's got to be consultative. And if you're truly dedicated to being a consultative salesperson, you do something.
I think
that's totally legit.
the best sales conversation you could have with somebody is if they walk away from your discovery call and they were like, wow, I would have paid for that. They taught me so much about this market and my need and all of these things. And that's what we try to do both in Clay and my agency is like, just, give them all of the knowledge that they need. And then we'll be experts first and then they'll come to the product or the service after.
Yeah, they'll trust you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think saying that is actually weird because you see with I think they said that it's huge and Andrew too, because what we're seeing with all this rise in AI is there's two sides of softwares that are popping up with companies where there's companies that say, hey, get our software and talk to our chatbot if you want help. And then there's companies on the other hand that have growth teams, revenue teams, customer success teams, and they say, hey, we're going to build your process with you and consult you through this. Once you want to turn it on, that's when we do the software. There's two different types. There's ones that have your success in mind, and there's ones that have their success in mind. And so I think the consultative sales method is the one that will always, especially if they know you can find more.
I was going to ask about that. I'm glad you hit it. So I was going to ask it if you all do anything to help the buyer build their process. Out of 10, can't really answer the question that well. So I got one is a yes.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
All the
We're
time.
teaching people the most basic, even just setting up our tool. Like,
As a B2B SaaS vendor, it's a general trend that I see. You sell more and more software that's free via service. You absolutely propose best practices. It's playbooks or plays, and you literally help create very often a playbook for the client, leveraging those, of course, leveraging solutions. The clients are buying outcomes, sales revenue outcomes.
So that you just reminded me of a question that came up on the last roundtable with Dave here. I want to see if David have you ever just sold playbook and not the rest of the service?
I haven't, but a tremendous amount of time with the playbook, and so it could be, but it's and we've actually had clients who said I would just pay for the playbook, and a lot of our clients who grow and they got larger funding and they eventually bring things in house, they then use our playbook to help them navigate. So it's a big part of what we do. I think it's a really important aspect, both to help the client understand sometimes what a playbook is and what's the motions, but it's also really good both for a program, but also on iteration. The playbook is just the beginning, right? It's the beginning guide. So something we do is iterate over time, right? We see what's working, and it's a living, breathing document that we use. Without it, you're fine.
Personally, with us, we're software first, and we have a service that goes with it. And we have tons of competitors in the market. We're a LinkedIn automation firm that does a lot of other features too, but that's the core. As everyone knows, there are so many of them out there. We have people all the time that come to us that they're using a competitor, and I'll ask them, and if it matches our feature set and they're already paying for it and logged into something, in the last month alone, we've had 4 people sign up for our coaching alone. Now, what that does is it if you're able to differentiate it, all 4 of them, after going through our playbook and training, you know what they did? They switched software. But it was all about providing that value up front without reinventing their wheel first.
Yeah, you win the trust of the follows.
Absolutely.
I challenge you to find a bot that will lose someone's trust and put their career in your hands. You know they're not going to do it. Maybe at some point, but you know, they would.
So let's touch on the relevance thing. I'm really anxious to hear about this because I have received a ton of messaging, and I know it's automated, and I've especially experienced it on LinkedIn. In fact, I'll tell you that today, I'm in there and I get this message, and they're like, "Hey, you know, I see that you sell equipment, and I have a lot of investors that want to invest in equipment." And I'm like, "What?" So this is an irrelevant message. What's going wrong with, I mean, is it because of the scraping thing that you talked about earlier? They're not problem sniffing correctly. What can we do to address that? I think that's one of the negative pieces of technology is bad messaging going out to a lot of people. And it ends up making it so you start ignoring all the messages so that people that have a relevance for you, it's harder for them to cut the noise. And what's going wrong and what could be done to make it go right?
I think the biggest thing that's going wrong when it comes to relevant messaging is just a lack of investment into the right data sources. Because if you had the right data sources and the right process, there's no reason that message should be sent out to you. And I have no clue how that that was even sent out to you. That is probably just somebody letting a bot just run wild. And so I think it goes back to your process of, okay, how do we know that somebody has a problem? How can we identify them? And then how can we connect the dots on, here's how we publicly know that they have a problem, and how can I connect that dot to how we solve that problem, and then message them accordingly. And there's all kinds of strategies around it. I have one company that we're helping out, and all they want to know is if the company mentions CSV imports on their website, or if they mention integration, it's a perfect customer for them. That's who they want to be talking to. They had their reps manually researching that, which is great. At least somebody is doing research. But you can use Google search operators to do that. 20,000 companies at once. I actually technically do 100,000. There's no limit. You can score your entire market for everybody who mentioned CSV imports and integration. And now you have your perfect audience right there. But it's just a lack of investment into the data to be able to bring those relevant messages.
I think it's. I was going to say it's easy to sprint right now. I think it's
Spray and it's easy.
It's easy and cheap. You're going to get hit by all this stuff. Because maybe sometimes interaction people needed equipment. They're like, sweet, they're just going to keep doing that.
Like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was going to say. It's not wanting to invest the time. This is hard. Like, it is hard to target correctly. It's hard to pull the data in the right way. We even find we go through, and these are some of the things AI can actually help with, and I think automates portions of it. I mean, every lead list that we pull, we're targeting it, and then we're human verifying all of it right now. So we're using AI tools. Hopefully, Play was going to help with, and we're building different things too. Those are things that can really get automated. But right now, you've got a lot of companies that are just like, it's too much work. I'm going to throw a list in, and hopefully, it will, it's going to hit. And that's just not a good way to build a program.
Back to the process question. Are you getting the right data sets, and do you have the right messaging to that data set? At the end of the day, laziness.
Yeah.
But also benefiting that is sometimes the spray and pray can work to give some level of yields, cold calling. And I think what is going to change that equation is when the AI solutions are actually more mature. And what I mean by more mature is more consolidation. So instead of going through like 5 or 10 different tools, there'll be one that covers like most of the channels, most of the data points you need, most of the visualization you need. And then 2, a lot less complex to set up. Today, people think in terms of go-to-market. Here's my go-to-market, here's my HCP. Translating that into a workflow in AI is really hard. And if you don't do that, then the AI will not be working for you. That's a fact. Some people give up on that. It's just too hard. Like creating X number of templates for every single scenario. Forget it. I'll go back to my spray and pray. that will change over the next few years. Consolidation and radical simplification of translating go-to-market into an AI engine that works. And that will actually enable user adoption at scale. We're discussing how hard user adoption is today, relatively speaking, just because of you have to tailor that AI engine.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say 10% of all of the Y Combinator companies that were accepted, 10% of them are AI prospect companies, which is crazy. And they, in my opinion, all of them that were trying to solve are in this rat race to be able to normalize the go-to-market playbook and normalize. I want to reach out VPs of sales with 100 to 150 employees in the banking industry. And I'm really looking for people who are hiring for graphic designers, and they recently hired. And then whoever can figure out that is going to get all the money, basically, of all these tech tools that are trying to figure this out. Whoever can normalize the go-to-market playbook, turn it into the correct data, and then turn that correct data into correct messaging. That's the rat race of the technology.
So very real quick, let's say that was perfectly set, right? They hit all those demographic criteria. What percentage of those people you guess are even in the buying window at that time? Such that
Gartner says that only 7% of buyers are ever in a buying window at any time. But at least now you turn your messaging from messaging 500 people kind of loosely to messaging 35 people, and at least it's really, really targeted. Where I think outbound is going to go, and it's going to move into an ad network. Where we were talking about this a little bit. Where Instagram ads was the first time I've ever clicked on an ad in my life, and the reason being is because the ads that they show me are actually relevant. It's actually what I'm interested in. And it's like, okay, I'm actually interested in this. And now if outbound can take that view as well, who cares where the messaging was coming from, how it was created? You send a really great email at a really great time, and there we go. I think what we have a lack of, though, is good ideas. You speak to even sales leaders at these companies, and I mean, I was taking a demo with Mike, and they were like, we want to do this. And I think they wanted to do some kind of LinkedIn scraping. And I was like, okay, well, what if I were to help you build a list of all, because they wanted to do like a competitor switching play, where they wanted to find everyone who's using the product, and they wanted to get them to switch to their product because they had a cheaper price and everything. And then they were going to try to do something on LinkedIn, and I taught them how to do it. And I was like, or you could scrape Google, because your ICP is more on Google. They were targeting hairstylists. And I prove to you that they're using your competitor, using built with, and scraping their website a little bit. And then you can target those people. And then from there, you'll be able to do your competitor switching. I swear to God, the CEO looked at the VP of marketing who was on the call, and they were like, I can't believe you never figured this out. And I was like, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to cause that. But I think there's also a lack of ideas around good ideas, where even if every sales development leader had access to Auto GPT for sales, where you can just type that in, I think too many people are still going to say, oh, I want to target VP of sales at marketing and advertising companies with 50 employees. Like, okay, no, like that, it could go so much deeper than that. But I think the bad ideas are going to be far numerous than the good ideas.
Just advertising. Anyways, I almost think of my inbox as like half the emails are something that is sprayed out there. I actually think the concept of spraying is really interesting. So like, it obviously works relative to stuff. So for every guy like you, we didn't need equipment. There's like some number that did, and they're just going to keep doing it. And I always think back to this example of the Nigerian prince scam. You guys remember when that was going on?
Yeah.
So there was like, they would blast this to hundreds of thousands, like millions of people. And they actually thought to make it even as absurd and poorly written as possible, because they only wanted the dumbest of the dumb to reply. Because then their funnel was like, boom, narrowed down to these perfect like victims for their thing. I actually think spray and pray like has a lot of characteristics of that. And I don't think it's going like, there's always going to be some element to that. There's always going to be poorly targeted parts of everything. I just hope it gets better and better. And to your point on Instagram, people talk about privacy. They're worried about losing their privacy. Man,
No, they're not.
it's freaking great. If they have all my info, I get suggestions. They're awesome. They save me like days and weeks of exploring and searching all that stuff. If people have my info, they send me an email at the right time for the right thing. Hallelujah. That's awesome. Then I don't have to I'm all for all that sort of thing. I think it helps.
I will say with spray and pray,
Yeah.
and it goes back to what Gil was saying earlier, was it's also a cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
Where people starting early on don't always have access to these type of tools and access to that knowledge even. And so with spray and pray, we still do see it. And I think spray and pray does fit into the sales landscape. I think it fits in a little bit differently though. I think where spray and pray comes into play, if like Eric's example, if I want to find the VP of sales at a marketing and advertising agency with 100 to 150 people and reach out to them, your call to action shouldn't be for your product. Your call to action is to discover their problem because, like you were saying, 7% of buyers are in a buying window,
You're
and
just
the
selling a
reason for
30-minute
that
phone call.
is they don't know their pain.
Yeah.
They haven't even uncovered it. So let's just start that relationship. And if you're gonna do spray and pray, you're just missing out on that timing. Make the relationship to push the product right away to those people if you're gonna do that, and you have that capital issue.
Yeah, we do video, so we have a video prospecting tool. Shorter the better, and don't even touch your features. There's like the nitty gritty of anything. All you're selling is 30-minute Zoom call, and you're like, looks like I have a problem, whatever. Like trying to get to the point of I'd like to help you solve a problem. If you're trustworthy about it, then like they'll rapport with you,
And that's
it.
That's the thing with top of funnel. When speaking to working with clients and then working with people at Clay, is so often people are like, I need to get them in so they'll buy my $50,000 product and all this. Like, this sells
Every screen.
Yeah. You know what the prospecting emails are going to look like next week for Clay is like I'm writing out emails where like I'm going to use AI to generate what their company does, and the subject line is going to be no human wrote this, and I'm going to be like, oh, I was on your website, it looks like you help people, and then we're going to generate the AI, and then I'm going to be like, do your SDRs write this 100% manually? I wrote this for 15,000 companies and I sent it to you. The other triggers that we can look for is I know these 5 things about your company, and I have like 15 columns in a Clay table to like find all these triggers about the company: headcount growth, recent news, product launches, LinkedIn posts to the person I'm reaching out to, all these different things, just to distill it down to these 5 triggers, so that I can say in the message, if you take a call with me, I will teach you how we did all of these things, plus job postings and all of these things.
Educational consultation.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got 2 minutes, and I want to see if I can get I want to see if I can get right around here real quick to get answers to 2 questions in 2 minutes. I doubt it, but the first one is I heard a lot of times it works. All right, how do you define it works? Revenue in your pocket, a closed deal, percentage of closes, or a conversion rate. What's it work to you then?
At the end of the day, it's close deals, but you got to work backwards, from that. So, nothing you can say it's great. I booked all these meetings and you feel good about it. At the end of the day, it's close deals, but you got to know that there are leading indicators to close deals, and then you got to work the metrics back. But all right,
Eric.
I would say close deals at a profitable ROI for your cost to acquire customers. That's the only thing that matters.
I think it really depends what you're selling. So posting does AI generated videos. For us, it works. I mean, we're getting a way higher reply rate because it looks like they do. For women, it's a sales agency, but it's for early startups. So it works, means that they're able to consistently build the math formula to build their revenue to raise a Series A, whatever it is. They don't necessarily need dollars. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Really, they need a story. So it kind of depends on what you're selling.
Yeah, I think to bounce off of that, in sales today, I think you should be defining what a win is before the sale closes, where it's a mutually defined decision where some people may be looking for strictly influencer reach, others may be looking for referral partners and affiliates, others may be looking for closed deals. You need to mutually define what a win is before the sale happens in a way that is measurable and definable.
So you actually invented a concept called user attribution to revenue. We monitor the revenue journey. Every sales cycle we went through from target to close. And we look at every action that was taken along the way. So additional marketing campaigns that are clicked, we get a credit. And SDR made a call and connected with one other person and with a warm intro from the partner. And then at the end of closing, so you do attribution for each user.
We're sort of like guy answer.
I
want to hear more about that.
We're at time. I wonder if I can get 2 more minutes though. 2 more minutes? All right, I want to go around. I'm just curious why in this space of relevance, there's a lot of conversation about how people respond to stuff. You're also trying to make sure you find the problem. It's more than just you have this role at a company and you're in my industry and whatnot. So why are there more outbound plays using inbound tools? Like a real quick and say, hey, you might have this problem, have this thing, can I get it to you, and you do some of that to start identifying some of that relevance, just as if you were an Instagram ad. Why doesn't it happen more? I haven't seen it that much. Somebody doing it? You doing it, David?
No, we do it, and I think it's because people get greedy. They want to have an email that's going to like to a meeting. They don't realize that it takes a few steps. And if you go too far too fast, you're going to burn it. So, absolutely, I think that's the way to go. I think the ask has to be low enough, where you just start with a relationship, start the conversation.
The very first campaign that I ran for Clay was literally, hey, we're helping VPs of sales use AI. Can I send you a video of how we're using AI right now? It's under 3 minutes. And we got freaking like, I don't know, in 2 weeks, we got like 120,000 responses. Totally fine. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're like, hey, first name, how you doing? This is Andrew. I'd like to show you. Wait a minute. You didn't think I actually said your name, did I? That was deep faked. And then we kind of end that, like, put them the whole thing, like a little mini thing. But that's how it goes.
We're actually doing the same exact thing where we use automation to open everything. If someone has intent there, to know how we can get the intent. Yeah. And then ask them, like, hey, is it something that you can dissolve? And if you are, is it if I send this?
And we're processing people. Right? Let's talk. Yeah.
We use very similar techniques.
Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap. I'd like to say thank you to all the guests. Thank you for the production team for letting us go over a little bit, and catch you on the next one. Ciao.
Thank you.